from.
Treicy.
To accept, press 1.
What's up, Treicy? How are you doing tonight?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing
I'm good.
great.
How are you?
Is the music too loud for you?
No, I can hear you nice and clearly. No background noise or anything, so it's fine.
Okay, cool. What can I do for you tonight? Thank you for calling in.
Oh, I just saw your show literally a couple of days ago, so I was really impressed, and I was like, okay. So I decided to call in and just chat with you. I occasionally call into the other channels, and I've been following this case since November. And I think obviously it's very tragic, right? Like 4 young kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I myself have 2 sons. I was a teen mom. So I have 2 boys that are close to the same age. One is 21, one's 19. My eldest actually, like it's crazy. And I've said in other shows, and I really mean it. My eldest son, he's 6'3", resembles Ethan to a T.
Aw.
Like the same bushy hair. He's goofy and like big teddy bear, just a sweetheart. And I think that's probably why I gravitated so much towards the case, was because that kid resembled my son.
Right.
And I remember I cried, and then, I feel for all the families, but maybe it's that one visual, thing with Ethan that makes me like feel the most for his family. I feel for all of them, right? But
Right.
I'm just like, as a mother, like I can't imagine what they're going through. But with that being said, I also work in the law field. And, like I pray to God, and also for all the listeners that are listening, hopefully nothing ever happens to your family member, right? Like I hope nothing ever happens to my sons, but I know something. And probably because I work in this field, I'm able to think a little bit more logically about things. It's one thing to arrest someone, take them in and like charge them. But you have to make sure 100% that you have the right person. Because let's say hypothetically down the line, all these media reports, and we've seen it, right? I've been following trials, and that's probably what got me into the law field. I've been watching trials in Jodi Arias back in the day, right? And I used to like Nancy Grace, but then I started following more trials, Zimmerman, right? Trayvon Martin, Zimmerman trial, Rittenhouse, all these other trials, and I watched them. And I remember with Rittenhouse and Zimmerman, how the media were like, labeling them as racist and all these other things. With Zimmerman, this was a long time ago. I don't know if people recall, but there was a witness that said, hey, like this kid was like straddling him and was like literally hitting him in the head, like MMA style or something along those lines. Evidence comes out during trial, right? That right now we cannot see. Right now, all we're seeing, all we're hearing is the version that the media is handing out for ratings, right? They want to keep the ratings high. They don't care. In their mind, they're thinking, okay, they're going to convict this guy, so there's no way he can turn around, come back and sue us for calling him a murderer, calling him a killer, calling him a stalker and all the, a serial killer, and coming out and saying his family saying this and that. No one knows what his sisters said. His sisters haven't come forward, and to be honest, they're being probably advised by attorneys, do not say a word, you're going to make it worse for Brian.
Right.
So we all have to think logically, and you know what? Like, let's wait for trial, and let's hope for our sakes as well, because we never know when we can be in this situation, right? We never know when we can be charged with a crime or anything like that, or a loved one, and then to be railroaded.
Right.
So it's very important, because no one thinks it'll ever happen to me. No one thinks like, hey, like, I stay out of trouble, nothing like that would ever happen to me. And then something like that happens and your family member's arrested. And then you're like, oh, my rights, my rights. But you weren't saying that. You weren't thinking that when Brian Kohberger was, like going to be up for trial. You were basically saying, no, like sentence him, do this, do that. And I think as time goes by, the families start thinking about stuff. They're going to want justice, right? They're going to want the right person. They're not going to want a person to pay for the crime. They're going to want the right person or persons to pay for the crime. So, like all the evidence that's coming out right now, what's available to us, the PCA was strong. But if you're paying attention to Ann Taylor and her team's like motions, they seem pretty like strong. So I think she has a great reputation, what I've read up on her. I think she's going to give him a really good defense. And with attorneys, especially like defense attorneys, I used to work at a defense law firm, and the attorneys would go all out for their clients, especially if they thought their clients were innocent or they thought that they were, like being railroaded or anything. They would go all out. And the thing is, there's a lot of different factors that people don't want to play into it. And I said this a long time ago, like when the case started, I started kind of just researching Moscow. And people can easily do this. You can Google Moscow, Idaho drugs, and it'll pull up like a bunch of different articles about drugs in that area. Okay. And
what all the ODs or something?
I'm sorry?
Like all the ODs and stuff? Is that what?
Like ODs, but also drug distribution and drugs out there in that area.
Huh.
And you can literally Google like drugs, Moscow, Idaho, and it'll pull up some articles on there that you can kind of read up. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but there's a couple that talked about, the drug distribution. And it kind of makes sense, right? It's a college town, kids not controlled by their parents. Like I myself have always been a goody two shoes. I've never done drugs, and I keep a really tight leash on my sons. But I have friends that have talked about, hey, I used to experiment with stuff when I was younger, things like that. So it doesn't mean you're a bad person if you've done it, right? Or like that house was known as a party house. Those kids were known to drink. There's a couple of videos of Xana where you could tell she's drunk as hell. And I'm just like, I look at it, I'm like, it's not beyond logic to think that maybe those kids were having a bunch of different friends. There was drugs like mollies and things like that going around in that house. I'm not necessarily saying that the girls were distributing. Maybe some of their friends were, right? Maybe, there was so many people in and out of that house. Maybe there was stuff going on. And I remember in the past I had said that, like, hey, this might have been some kind of drug thing. And let's say hypothetically, like Brian didn't know anyone in that area. He seemed really nerdy and maybe, like living in a new town with no friends. Who knows if he didn't go on Tinder, befriend some, college girl or whatever, college kids that were doing drugs, trying to fit in. It's very possible, right? Like he made friends with the wrong people. They're like, hey, check this out, like hold this, touch that. And he touched it, not thinking something was going to happen. And then on top of it, right, you got to think logically. Like a night or two ago, I was walking my dog in my apartment complex, and I kid you not, within a block radius, there was 5 white sedan newer models, 5 lined up, like in the road, right, between cars and so on. But I was like, damn. I was like, they all look alike to me. I don't know very much about cars. My sons can tell you what model each one of them is and so on. But they all look very similar in design.
Mm-hmm.
So,
especially
and then
back window. There's so many of them now that have like that that teardrop, squint to it that goes to the back. I didn't even realize how many of the back windows were like that until we started looking through them all at the beginning of the week, and I'm just like, holy shit! I didn't even know this is a thing now. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then white cars. 25% of cars in the U.S. are white in color. 25%.
Oh wow!
Right? There's so many different colors. Yeah.
Wow.
So like literally, you look at these. Like I said, I work in this field, so I try to think logically about things. I don't just say, hey, okay, yes, they have a sheet with his DNA on it, but what other evidence? You got to think, okay, you just butchered, okay, 4 kids on 2 different level floors. Okay, girls shed like crazy. I know I shed hair all the damn time. I have a dog. My dog sheds like crazy. My dog is a 40-pound colonial spaniel. My dog freaks the hell out. Like anytime, he hears any noises, my boys are play fighting, my dog freaks the hell out. So I think about these things and I'm like, okay, did Murphy locked in that room on his own for hours not make noise? Their hearing is so keen. Is it possible, really, be logical that dog wasn't going psychotic in that room locked up, hearing his master getting butchered in the next room over? There is no way. If that's a wooden floor, that dog is stomping around, that dog is making noise, that room is right above Dylan.
Yep.
You can hear it, right? Like, this dog was freaking out. And then the smells, right? Like, that dog, something was going on. Dylan can say all she wants to say. Honestly, I wonder what happened there, because no, you heard that. You heard, Ethan's a big boy, right? He was a big boy. And Vanna, if all those, all what is being said about her injuries, that girl was screaming. That girl was fighting for her life, okay? Unless Dylan had a headset in and wasn't really paying attention. But I'm sure if she was trying to go to sleep and she heard a dog making loud noises, I have neighbors. I live in an apartment complex. I've lived with roommates in the past, wooden floors. I would hear everything. My dog had a seizure one night on a wooden floor. My roommates in the next door and downstairs both came up because my dog was rolling like crazy on the wooden floor, having a seizure. They both heard it, came up. It was dark. It was like 2 a.m. in the morning. My dog had a seizure on the floor.
Wow.
And my roommates came up. They're like, oh my gosh, what happened? And my dog was shaking on the floor. And I was like, I think he just had a seizure. And of course, I took care of my dog. But I started thinking about stuff like that. I was like, there's no way, at least that Dylan didn't hear something. And the thing is, if it's possible that Dylan heard things, right? Or maybe that she knew, living in that house, that there was shady people coming in and out of that house. If she just, being a 19-year-old girl, heard her friends getting murdered, right? You watch things on news, like drug-related hits, stuff like that. Didn't a family just get, butchered in California? A family, including a baby, over drugs.
Right.
So is it really, if you can think that you speaking up isn't going to put your life in danger and your family's life in danger? Most people that are involved with drugs don't talk, and this is a well-known fact.
Right.
So who knows if Dylan, either A, you see that footprint in front of her door, who says that they didn't catch her and tell her, you say something, we're going to take you and your family out, or we know where we're going to find you, or we're going to say you had something to do with it, or we're going to do this and that. We don't know. But is it possible? Yes, things like that happen, and they happen often.
Right.
Okay, so
it's definitely a possibility that could. There's actually quite a few people that do, have that opinion in my community that, they feel that way, that's what took place. You know what I mean? And until we have the documentation to prove it did or didn't, it definitely can be a possibility. That's for sure.
It is. And we don't know, right? We don't know what, we don't know everything Ellie has. We don't know what the defense is prepping for Brian. All this, he's so smart. He did all this. He could have cleaned up. If it's true, Dylan, if she describes seeing someone walk all clad in black, do you think she wouldn't have mentioned, he was wearing booties, he was covered in plastic? Are you carrying a big duffel bag with him? Or I heard the shower running.
Right.
This whole supposedly he cleaned up. No. If someone cleaned up, is within that house with the knowledge of the roommates within that home. And that's the only way they could have not tracked things. But Brian, if the timeline is correct and he rushed out after committing these crimes, he would have tracked, again, like I said, dog hair, animals,
something,
girl hair, girls shed like crazy all the damn time. They're young college age girls. That house didn't look like it was very clean all the time. So something, right? Blood, even as he's tracking through the backyard, you're stepping on grass or whatever's back there. Technology now, they could literally get pieces of soil and determine where that came from.
There's
so many different things. Right? They're no, he's not only is he a skilled assassin, he's also the best housekeeping cleaner in all the Pacific Northwest, right? There's no way. Like he's amazing. He can clean. He can kill. Plus, he's really smart. You know.
So, and
Like
that's
I'm
what
like,
don't make
no,
sense is why is it chaotic before the crime and after if you're this skilled at fucking everything else, you know?
exactly.
And you study criminal fucking
Yeah,
criminology, so you should know more than anybody that you should shut your fucking phone off as soon as you walk, or even before you walk out of your house. You're gonna know all the digital footprints. You're gonna know, like, if you've really scoped out this fucking house, you literally, that's the best way that you could get there and leave. Like, that's what you came up with
exactly.
if you scope this place out, and you know all this other shit that normal people that didn't take those classes might not even know to think about, or know what can get them caught. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that's the main thing, right? People need to kind of, like throw emotion out of it. Think logically for a moment. Like think
Right.
about it. A lot of people, if you live in a two-bedroom house, you have, not two-bedroom. If you live on a two-story house, kind of walk around, take a look. If you have pets, like how much dog hair is, like step on something, look at your foot, you're gonna see dog hair stuck there, right? Walk outside, go to your car or whatever, lift up your shoe before you step in and see what crap is stuck on the sole of your shoe. This
Right.
stuff is literally it's logics, right? It's
Right.
not, this man is Superman. He literally floated above the ground to his car, right? Like it's not like, you have to think about things, right? And there was the 8-hour delay, right? These girls, the reputation of that house, the rumors that have come out about some of the roommates. I'm not going to say names or what, but I'm sure you guys have heard some of the rumors about drugs.
Mm.
So, people get roughed up. You never know what happens if they knew the attackers. They came in, they're like chilling, whatever, right? And then something happened. They're like, hey, joking around. They're like, oh, these girls aren't going to take it seriously. They owe us money. They did this, they did that. We're going to teach them a lesson. We're going to do this. No one's going to say anything because they know what's up. And like, there's so many different things, especially with drugs.
Oh yeah.
People
Yeah.
don't want to talk, right? Because that's why I say, if Dylan and Bethany actually knew what was going on, let's say maybe they thought, hey, they're going to come and just rough them up or something, right? And they knew that there was going to be some kind of crime, and then it ended up in a murder, they can be charged with something, right? So there's different things on top of that, like getting, threatened with their life. So we don't really know. Let's let the trial happen. Let's let all the evidence come out on both sides. Let justice prevail correctly.
Right.
We don't need someone to be sacrificed just for the masses, for the media to have someone, and for someone to just be found guilty simply based on, like mob mentality. You want the right person. You don't want it to come out years later that the wrong person was sentenced, and that the other person or other persons involved were running around free to potentially keep doing what they did. So that's basically my thoughts. I thank you for letting me talk so long.
Oh no, I appreciate you. I love these phone calls. I really do. And it's like what you were saying earlier in the call. There's a lot of people that they 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 don't think that it can happen to them. And it's certain people like us that don't even need to be in that position for it to happen to us to then go, oh shit, maybe I should treat others this way. We already know that we should treat others that way before we even get into that position. That's why I'm sitting here and I'm saying it's innocent until proven guilty here. Not that Chad Doerman from Ohio that unalived his 3 sons he's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, but the motherfucker's guilty. It's obvious.
Yeah.
This shit makes no sense. So there's no way that I'm going to be the guy that's going to sit there and say, guilty 100%, all this shit lines up, because it doesn't to me. And I'm not going to let there and sit some dude that I don't even fucking know sit there and get accused of this shit on my fucking show when this is what you had to arrest him. If you had that to arrest me, I hope that some fucking dude on YouTube that doesn't even have a fucking degree is sticking up for my constitutional rights. Because if shit
Yeah,
don't make sense,
exactly.
it don't make sense. That's all I'm saying. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
and yeah, but I appreciate you. Thank you, and everyone have a wonderful night and
Yeah.
wonderful Friday and weekend.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your comfort calling in, and please do anytime.
All right, bye.
Thank you. Wow, what a call.